Hola a todos, how we doing? Welcome back to YouTube instead of audio, nuggets and notes and questions. Before we get in, let me just do a little bit of admin. So I apologize for being a little bit behind schedule. I'll tell you about funny flight stories later, but I don't want to waste up YouTube time for that. Let's just say it wasn't easy to get back home, but I'm back home, a little bit behind, but we're getting caught up. So this week, we're finishing up on our second CRM. Next week, we have our branding experience. These two next to the 15th and the 22nd are awesome stuff. Reminder, the 22nd we're in person. The 7th we are in person. Okay, we have 2 topic talks coming up. Some of you have cleared some stuff with me. Some of you, I don't know. If you have any questions about topic talks, shoot me an email. Okay? Little foreshadowing. So as I said last week, in theory, you begin the course with CRM because that's fundamentally one of the things that we do this when we're talking about this. In my opinion, CRM is fundamentally one of the main reasons why you do social and digital. But I would have a hard time doing CRM if we didn't do decision driven, if we didn't do MO and learning, if we didn't do the CMO discussion and why orgs don't learn, if we didn't have a satisfaction and loyalty conversation, I'd have a hard time doing CRM. So in the first module, the Peppers and Rogers, they really started this movement of thinking of one-to-one CRM maintaining our customer bases. I know these articles are history, but, I think you are owed the history. Then we got the word of mouth, we got the tweet one, and we go down, and I was wishing this BizStone one was better. It was only so good. So here we go. Most of the first module of CRM talks about the praises of CRM. Even though in the questions and in my commentary, I gave you a lot of the downside to CRM. The second module does a much better job of giving you the downsides of CRM. Preventing the premature death, unlocking these crazy relationships, how we alienate customers, how you screw up CRM, is your loyalty program betraying you? This is a little bit more on the dark side of the CRM equation. Okay. One other quick. Twitter. There's Twitter. If you weren't following me on Twitter, this is my buddy Lionel that I was hanging with in Marseille, and he's wearing the Philadelphia Sixers jersey, and I'm wearing the Olympique de Marseille jersey at this unbelievably rowdy, nutty stadium. Fantastic game. Unfortunately, Marseille did not win, but it was a cool experience. What was weird is that the Super Bowl didn't start until 1:30 in the morning. I tried to stay up. I did stay up. They don't show the commercials. They don't show our commercials, and during commercial breaks, they just show highlights of previous plays. It's a little weird. I made it through the halftime show, and then I crashed. Okay? So let's get into our questions. So the first one is preventing the premature death of relationship marketing. This is from Susan, and Dave. I actually know Susan and Susan somewhat well from my time in Boston. Both of them are Boston professors. This was a landmark article when it was written. It lit up because this is when, timeline-wise, everybody's talking about CRM, and relationships, and then we get this, and you're like, oh. And from a buzzword standpoint, whether you call it one-to-one marketing, CRM, or relationship marketing, philosophically, we're all talking about the same thing here. So let's do some questions. What kind of programs or initiatives would be more inclusive to all kinds of customers? Maybe this was a question you had from the article, but I need something more specific here. This article and a bunch of other articles talk about segmenting your customer base and deciding based on SKU 80/20 who gets what sets of whats. But I'm not really sure what you're asking here. Sorry about that. With greater customer concern over privacy, this is a real thing. What are some of the ways a company uses personal information for mutual benefit without feeling a loss of trust over having their information used? Well, this goes straight back to last week, in one of the new articles from last week. It comes down to transparency. If the give-get ratio, meaning the benefits that I get are better than what I give up, mainly information and privacy, and I know what I'm giving up, and I know how the company is using it, then there isn't a loss of trust, because I don't have to worry about anything, because I know what you're doing with my information, and I know what I'm getting back from it. What is the best way to tell if you're alienating Fortimer customer base? Oh, that's an easy one. It's called, some of these articles called it customer attrition. Some of the articles from last week called it a leaky bucket, i.e. losing customers or defection, or, But if you do not have the extreme loyalty data, if you do not have a high customer retention rate, well, then that's your indicator. How long does it become a lasting effect? Well, it depends on the company and situation, but it doesn't have to take long at all. Especially in the age of digital. I mean, the upside to a social network is it's free to join. The downside to a social network is there's no barriers to exit. There's no forced relationships, as we saw in the last article from this week. What did they call those in the back? I don't know. Forced something? We'll get to that. This article is very apparent. With the advent of smart Internet of Things culture, it feels a bit like a pendulum has swung the other way. Customers are used to sifting through millions of products and expecting companies to provide assistance in that process. Companies that don't provide this service are ostracized. In addition, it feels that many customers understand that everything is geared towards monetizing their loyalty. Do the concerns of this article really apply today? Have we evolved past them? Now, I'd love to hear how Javier thinks about this question. But I think this article, which is why we're still reading it, is just as valid today as it was when they were talking about it back then. The difference is we have more, we meaning the consumer, has more knowledge of what these firms are doing. I don't think we've evolved past them. I have just as much crap in my email bin now, that you would think that we would evolve past that. But they're still spraying us like mass market people as opposed to one-to-one relationships like an Amazon does. There's less Amazons and less CVS's and less Targets and less Walgreens than there are other companies doing the opposite. What are the biggest reasons companies fall flat on appropriately communicating with their customers? It's easy. The companies are not telling you what's in it for you, the customer. The give-get ratio is in the wrong direction. It's more, hi, I'm the company, I'm telling you what I have. As opposed to, hi, I'm the company, this is what you need. See, in the former, the company is assuming what they have is what you need. And that's not the case. How can companies entice customers to stay loyal as so many new social media outlets are taking their attention? Okay. So we're talking about loyalty to social media properties. And when you're talking about companies, you're referring to a social media platform. So how do you stay loyal to an Instagram when Snapchat is hot, right? That's the way I would read this question. And it's really a function of your network and what you want to accomplish. There's things that I do on one social network LinkedIn that I don't do on other social networks? Twitter. There are things that I do on one social network, Twitter, that I do not do in Facebook. It's like a functional approach to social networking. What do you think is the best method to keep and build customer relationships in today's world? Under promise and over deliver. Give more value back than you are getting in return. If you keep giving something that the customer wants, and the customer's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Guess what? That customer's going to be loyal to, they're going to come back. They're going to do positive pro-social behavior. It's that simple. Is it better for a company to have higher base prices but no hidden fees, or lower prices but more hidden fees? Prices will be equal at the end out to both services. I'm all about transparency. If you have hidden fees and you're not being transparent about things, I don't know how I could recommend something like that. Should a company not get involved in a relationship that has a high chance of being destroyed later on? Well, it's a function, and you saw some of the later articles we have this week of how valuable that relationship is. Is there any equity in that relationship? Is there a way to move that relationship to another level? Right? All right, next set of questions. Is there such a thing as finding a balance so customers don't feel overwhelmed? Or is the world we live today so focused on options and free enterprise that things will keep getting worse from a consumer standpoint, meaning overwhelmed? I hate to say it, I think we're going to keep getting more overwhelmed because the technology used to be a barrier to entry. It used to be very expensive and very complicated, and it's not expensive and it's not complicated anymore. So now you don't have just the big firms trying to do this to you. You have even small mom and pop firms trying to do this to you. So get used to being overwhelmed. I know that's not very comforting. Customer trust is vital when conducting business because they want to feel comfortable and confident that the information will not be shared. Okay, I'm not sure that was a question. Customers hesitate when companies try to push themselves upon them. They feel threatened and will do what it takes to fight back. Okay? What should be done by companies to ensure, these probably two were leading up to this question. What should be done by companies to ensure customer satisfaction, be able to gain customer trust? All right, first of all, I hope that we're beyond the customer satisfaction conversation at this point in time. If you're doing satisfaction research, you're doing the wrong thing. Satisfaction is a measure of past behavior. It has no connection to future intention. We want future intention data. That's loyalty. So what should be done by companies to ensure loyalty and be able to gain trust? It's the same thing. The give-get ratio. Deliver more and be transparent, and you will have good customers. It's that simple. Very few companies do it. I mean, just from the simple standpoint that it should be just as easy to get on one of these lists that you get spammed at as it is to be able to get off of it. And is it easy to get off of any of these lists? No. Are these firms being transparent? No. Do you think that marketers will always ask customer permission in the marketing process, or only in certain circumstances due to marketing struggle to open two-way communication channels? Oh, we're trying to ask customer permission. They have to ask permission. Now, in the U.S. marketplace, it's an opt-out marketplace, not an opt-in marketplace. In the EU, it's legally regulated. It is opt-in. You have to have permission. Here in the U.S., you don't necessarily have to have permission. There's ways for you to do things. Simple credit card data, believe it or not. There are 13 credit card companies, if I'm not mistaken, major. 11 of them sell their data to anyone that wants it. I'm a big fan of opt-in and asking for permission. How can the company ask for customer permission or voluntary cooperation in the marketing process? How do they do it? Well, people will exchange or trade certain privacy or certain information for various benefit packages. If you give up a lot to get the data, then guess what? Consumers will make that trade-off. How do you treat different levels of customers? Well, if you are transparent, like banks are, usually, if you have this number of deposits, you get these services. If you want to pay this per month, you get these cell phone services. But if it's not clear what you need to do to become VIP, and it seems arbitrary who gets to be selected VIP, then guess what? There's a problem there. Some customers are saturated with options. Some are not. I think most are. From a company perspective, what factor will lead us to launch extensions or changes for those outlier customers? The ones that are not? Which ones are the outliers? I don't know. This is a very challenging question because in today's marketing world, especially with digital products, we have the ability to keep creating new products and new products and new products and new products because manufacturing and distribution is digital. If you have a platform, it's not a big deal. The problem is, where's the book? I have it right there. It's The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. You may seem like the more options there are, the happier someone might be. But there's more than one study done, including about 4 or 5 by myself, that the more options that you have, the less satisfied you will be. There's a sweet spot. If there's no choice, you're upset. If there's some choice, you're really happy. If there's a lot of choice, you're less happy. It's crazy, isn't it? But it's a U-shaped curve. Choice is good to a certain point, but then too much choice leads to too much cognitive cost. Too much thinking and trade-offs of which ones do I need, to the point where you might cognitively shut down and not make a decision because it's too complicated. Healthcare plans, retirement plans, your cable company. When things are too complicated, you kind of push off the decision because it's not an easy decision to make. Too many choices, too much stuff to think about. Do you think that consumers always wanted intimate relationships, or are we shifting towards more in modern times due to technology and having much more? Well, there was always a service component. Banks always had relationships. Realtors had relationships. Middle America, small town, Main Street America had relationships. So relationships were always there. But with technology, now in the bottom-up world that we live in, I think it's much more relationship-based now than it's ever been, ever in the history of business. I really, really do. To the point where business doesn't get done unless there's a relationship. To the point where there are some people that are so locked into Amazon Prime that they will only buy from Amazon because that's who they have their relationship with. And that's it. And we can stop there, Last question for this article. This article seems a little dated in regards to customer relationships from 1998. Have the companies learned from these issues discussed, or is customer satisfaction still at an all-time low? Customer satisfaction still is at an all-time low. Companies have not learned from these things. Just look at your inbox and watch television commercials. Let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Zoom. There we go. Avoid the 4 perils of CRM. I know that this one is more recent. 2007, am I mistaken? 2002. Notice some of the authors here. We have a Rigby. There's a number of other articles forthcoming from Mr. Rigby. We have Reichheld, who was our loyalty person. Not a coincidence. How does a company differentiate its customers who would want a relationship and those who don't? That's a good question. Now, hopefully the companies let customers self-select and opt in to the CRM system. There are a lot of firms that don't do it. or even the ones that do, they get you to opt in based on a one-time discount, i.e., if you do your loyalty card now, I'll give you 10% off this purchase. And then they use the card just for spamming purpose, then thereafter. They never learn anything from their consumer. What is the best way to tell if you're alienating a former customer base? How long does it come before it becomes a lasting effect? I think I answered this question. It's, what is your customer retention ratio? In the 12 years since this article has been posted, what are some new reasons why CRM fails? I don't know if there's, from a big picture perspective, I wouldn't go anything, I hit some of these big time last week. Peril number 1, CRM before creating a customer strategy. What, if I were to put one, is in the past, because the technology is so much cheaper now, there's less of a technological hurdle to get started. Okay? You get more of the philosophy. But the give-get ratio is not in this article. I like 4. Stalking, not wooing customers. Yeah, I like that. Do you think companies continue to make the same mistakes with CRM, especially now that more information is available? Yes, I absolutely positively do. They are making the same mistakes now as they were in 2002, even though the technology is cheaper and even though the data is richer. And it's because they're using it philosophically the wrong way. They think that the CRM platform is a more targeted mechanism for them to send an ad to a consumer. Okay? Not even a customer or not even a partner. They would be like, whoa, yeah, we could do this advertising thing with a TV or a magazine. Oh, let's just throw that in the CRM system and, target our existing customers with the ad. And that's not what CRM is. CRM is a relationship thing. It's a learning mechanism. It's not a spamming device. Questions. Is it better to spend more time and money on CRM and getting it right, or quicker and cheaper, but the CRM will not be as good? No. This quicker and cheaper? No. And it's not really the money. It's the time. The time resources is the bigger deal. And if you get it right, oh my God, the financial, it's the benefits. I'm going to get to the benefits again when we do this, because I think this article does a spectacular job of laying them out. But let's hold off on that for a second. What is the best method of CRM? CRM's not a method, it's a philosophy. And we have it, and we've been talking about it ad nauseum. Does it depend on what company it is? No. As long as the company has a learning relationships with its customers, then that's it. Is there such a thing as too much CRM data and technology? Well, there could be a lot more data, and you not be able to find insights from the data. So in that aspect, I'll agree with you. But I'd rather err on the side of having too much data that you can later, from a big data perspective, find insights from. Just be transparent on what you're collecting and why you're collecting it. How delicate of a balance is it to implement a CRM strategy? Can the data get skewed? Delicate of a balance. I'm not sure in which way you're referring to here. Can the data get skewed? Data can always get skewed. All it takes is one researcher to have a conclusion in mind before the data is analyzed, and then the data could be skewed. I'm not sure what an old-fashioned analysis means. I'm not sure. It made reference to this. I'm trying to think in my head where it was in the article off the top of my head. But old-fashioned analysis was, in my eyes, is just, revenue minus costs. What is the functions of technology spectrum? Low tech, mid tech, high tech. Everything's high tech. This article's older, so don't worry about that. How do companies spend millions of dollars on CRM when they don't have the proper support processes in place? Well, they used to spend millions of dollars on CRM. They don't do it anymore. But if the CEO says we need this and signs off on everything and then they buy the equipment, guess what? That's how this happens. Is there a major pitfall of marketers of overusing CRM to target customers? Yes. It is peril number 4, right? Spamming, not wooing. What is it? Stalking, not wooing customers. Perfect. All right. Next article. Love this article. I loved it so much that even though I've been using it for, I don't know, the better part of 6-8 years, it's probably an indirect coincidence. Xavier Dries is one of the authors. I don't know either one of these authors. My son's name's Xavier, so maybe that's why I like this article so much. This endowed progress effect on page 127. This is a nugget if I have ever smelled one in my entire life. Every one of you either has internal programs or external ones with your B2B or your B2C customers that you do this kind of thing over time. And you know something, if this isn't a nugget that you couldn't use and work in the next month, I don't know what is. I love this endowed progress effect, so much so that me and 2 of my buddies wrote an article about the endowed progress effect, and we actually went further than this March 2006 JCR article. It was in the Journal of Public Policy and Marketing, and it was about credit card data. You can look it up. All right, let's answer some of the questions here. Well, before I do that, starting on page 125, it says, what do loyalty programs reasonably do? When it says loyalty program, in your head, just say CRM. What does CRM do well? It keeps customers from defecting. Yes, it does. That's a fact. You win greater share of wallet, i.e. you get customers to buy more from you. You prompt customers to make additional purchases. Yes, absolutely positively. If you're in a learning relationship and you know what they want, or you can anticipate and recommend, and you have good algorithm data, then guess what? You can do that. Yield insights into customer behavior and preferences? Without question, that is a yes. Turn a profit? Absolutely, positively, yes. These are really, really, really good things. I love the levers of loyalty, starting on 128. This is fantastic. And the mistakes. If you just take this article and you just use the headers and the main bullet under each one and create yourself like a little one-page outline, that's very, very nugget worthy. All right, let's answer some questions. While the first article explained how loyalty programs could backfire by making some customers feel less than, this article does not even mention that problem. Are there only offensive loyalty programs, the ones that flaunt superiority over customers over others? Offensive loyalty programs? Some of the customers often feel less than. Maybe I'm missing something in this question here. There's good loyalty programs and there's not so good loyalty programs. I don't know if they can flaunt superiority. I'm kind of not sure what's being asked here. What are some business sectors that benefit the most through loyalty programs? Which ones have tried and failed? Well, it's not sectors, it's companies. Okay? There's many companies that have tried and failed. But usually sectors or companies that have a rich data stream. So right now, because of scanner data, we have lots and lots of data. It's very rich. Anything that happens in a supermarket, a drugstore, a convenience store, that's a very rich data stream. Okay. Other things, anything that's web-based, that you have clicks and the such, Amazon, Netflix, eBay, very, very good with data streams to be able to build programs. One of the key reasons for loyalty cards is to develop a database on consumers and to track their behavior. One of the key reasons for loyalty cards is to develop a database on customers and track their behavior. I don't think you and I are on the same page here. If you just look at the bullets that I read at the beginning of this, that's only one of the bullets, not all of them. And I don't, we're tracking the behavior. We're not learning from them and giving them more back, which is what a good loyalty program is. How are most companies leveraging this, and who's best in class? It's the same ones I keep mentioning. No one's better than Amazon. No one's better than Netflix. No one's better than CVS. No one's better than Walgreens. No one's better than Kroger. No one's better than Target. These companies are amazing. Amazing. In your experience, what are some companies that are doing loyalty programs really, really well, and why? I think I just listed them all in the previous questions. Why? Because they're using the data to give me more. The give-get ratio, what I get back for giving up my data stream, I think I don't have any question whatsoever to give up my information. Some of it is privacy related. I will take those benefits gladly. I think I am getting more out of it than I am giving up. The give-get relationship. Can you provide another example of the last benefit to make a profit? The last benefit? Turn a profit. So this is the last benefit. So, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, supermarkets are terrible when it comes to profitability. There's not even a penny in most of the articles. It's a couple cents, half a cent in any of the stuff that you buy in the aisles of the supermarket. Yet Kroger, on average, is substantially more profitable than any other supermarket chain. Why? Because they know what offers to give to which of their customers, and their customers tend to buy more. And that is more profit. Nowadays, most companies have loyalty programs. Well, if you want to call what they're doing a loyalty program. How can you create a better loyalty program than your competition? Learn from what your customers do. Give them back more. At a certain point, does it get too costly? I don't know. I think I'd rather spend the revenue, time, energy learning about my existing customers and getting them to buy more than it is to go out and expend marketing dollars to attract a new customer. We've been through this, and guess what? The next article actually talks about this. How do credit card companies earn profit for when they offer so many expensive freebies? Oh my gosh. Well, it's easy to have expensive freebies when they're charging you 18% interest if you don't pay your bill in full. 18% interest? You can't even get 1% or 2% from a bank these days. I just bought a car in the fall at 0.00%. A 5-year, 60-month loan at 0.00%. Yet credit card companies are still billing you 13, 14, 18, 22%. That's how they're very profitable. How does a company know prior to starting a loyalty program if the program will produce a profit? I don't know how they know, but the companies that do it well are all quite profitable. The benefits for doing it are all well known and well documented. When companies are providing less quality service to less loyal customers, it seems from the article that the company would rather not have them altogether. This is an issue. I think this is the first time this came up in either last week or this week's discussion. This idea of segmenting our customers. Some of our customers are a pain in the ass, and we should therefore fire them. They're less loyal. They're more costly to service. Yada, yada, yada. We should fire these customers. It's too simplistic of an answer, to just cut them off. The assumption is cutting them off would be more profits overall. But what if cutting 12% of your customer base away produces enough bad negative word of mouth that you end up with your loyal customers leaving as well. What if, when I was getting my PhD, I was broke to the point where I had a particular checking account that if I went into the teller, they charged me $8 or $10 just to walk to the teller to do a normal business transaction. My account was ATM and ATM only. This was pre-web-based, by the way. If I did anything with an actual teller or a human, they charged me $8. Now, that's them trying to put me in the box because I'm less loyal or I'm a less quality of a customer as a bank person because I only have so much in my account. Okay? But heck, I was going to finish my PhD in 2 years and then suddenly have a lot of money in my account. Yet, as soon as I started getting money, the first thing I did was find another bank. Because I was pissed off at how these guys treated me. What loyalty programs have been the most successful? I think I've already listed a whole bunch of them. Is there another type of marketing strategy different from those mentioned in the article that can be effective to nurture customer loyalty? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I need to stretch for a second. Is there another type of marketing strategy different from those mentioned in this article that can be effective to nurture customer loyalty? There's so many that I could fill up the rest of YouTube, The idea is to find out what people want and give it to them. That is my definition of marketing. We can do that through a social media listening tool and listening through social. We can do that through marketing research. We can do that just having interviews within a retail store. But when it comes down to creating loyalty, give them more than what they've expected. What department focuses in on customer retention and loyalty? All right. I'm going to have a problem with this question. And while I'm glad that it is asked, and I have no problem that it is asked, I need to change the way you guys are thinking. What department? What department? Ooh, I don't like the word department. I don't like it. I'm an MO guy. I do not like functional silos. Who should care about retention and loyalty? Everyone. The company. This should be the number one goal of the entire company, regardless of what department you're in. It's not some small thing that someone in a box in a part of a larger organization does. This needs to be the organization. And when it's not part of the organization, that's why we get the 4 perils of CRM. Because it's not part of the philosophy or strategy of the firm. If it's tucked away in some silo, 4 levels down from the CEO. We can't even enter a Costco if we refuse to show our membership card. Okay? Does that mean that compulsory and real name system rules can help Costco reward loyal behavior? Now, this is a little bit of an odd case because Costco is a membership club. Costco, BJ's, Sam's Club. If you do not pay your annual fee, you cannot buy things in that store at those prices. So there's a little bit of a forced loyalty there. However, Costco then does a really good job of giving you lots and lots and lots of value, even though you have to pay for a membership. So Costco actually does a pretty solid job. Now, I am not a Costco customer because we have a BJ's less than a quarter mile from my house, so I just go to BJ's. But BJ's does a terrible job when it comes to CRM and loyalty behavior. I have a feeling that Costco is a little better, but still they're not on the level of a Target or a Kroger or a CVS. The golden handcuffs example in this article felt weak to me. I might be a little crazy, but I can't imagine a lot of people who are really that motivated by sprint long distance for frequent flyer miles. Do you know of any other keep customers from defecting programs? Well, there's all kinds of them, charging you fees, giving you time locked in, cell phone companies making you sign an agreement for 24 months. Those kind of things keep customers from defecting, and it is a form of forced loyalty. Are there any other sort of cutting-edge rewards programs on the internet? This question's come up a couple times already, and you're looking for an explicit example. However, that's not what you should be thinking. You should be thinking on these relationships are learning relationships, and you have to underpromise and overdeliver and give more than you get. It doesn't make any difference what you do within the program. As long as you abide by that philosophy, you're good. The article describes what I think are pretty common programs for brick and mortar stores, but what can be done with online and social media. Well, with online and social media, you have so much more two-way data. With brick and mortar, the only data you have is transaction data. You can get all kinds of other data that has nothing to do with actual transactions from digital and social. When is the most effective loyalty program? What is it? Okay, been there, done that. Next article. Okay. This one is a little academic-y. This one is something for you to think differently. These guys are algorithm economists, metrics people. I have a hard time reading their papers when they're printed in the academic journals. At least this one is printed in Harvard's Business Review when practitioners were the general audience. So they don't go into the algorithms of how they solve these things. But let me see what I can do here. The article begins by mentioning that many companies, small companies, are staging experiments to gauge the impact of marketing campaigns. What kinds of experiments? Can these kinds of models be tailored to work for smaller customers? Well, this is May 2008. Let's just talk about AdWords, okay? Google AdWords. I can literally go in and place bets on certain keywords and decide which ones would be most popular to me and at what price. If I am Ford, then I would love to have the word pickup, but I have to bid for that word pickup against Chevy, Toyota, Nissan, insert your truck company here, Suzuki. But what if I did an experiment? Instead of pickup, I used flatbed? Would I still get good, reliable traffic to click through? That's an experiment, and that's not that expensive to do. And it's easier to do something like that digitally than it would be to do it non-digitally. How do you get consistent data over time to inform the models? Well, if you notice this week from these professors and the from VK, who now teaches at Georgia State, from the article last week, did you notice that both of these were banking examples? The company was a bank. Banks have a lot of money to fund this kind of research. And two, banks have the data stream. So that's the data from a bank, maybe because it's regulated environment, Well, guess what? You have a solid data stream there. But I bet you Verizon has some pretty consistent data over time, just because Verizon has contracts with customers and clients, and that phone is active going through Verizon networks. And guess what? They know bill, they know usage patterns, they know all kinds of things. Device, technology. The example is fascinating in its scale and complexity, given that it's 6.5 years old. Are there better off-the-shelf products for smaller companies to achieve a similar end result? The approach detailed doesn't seem like it's reasonable for a smaller company. Well, the harder part with a smaller company is a smaller company might not have, I'm on page 120, what goes into the model, all of this. Some of these data points might not exist for a smaller company. But does that mean I can just collapse? No, because some of these things, even in the first bucket, the second bucket, news coverage, what if we don't have any news coverage? This is harder to do for a smaller company the way these professors did it. But any company now, I keep going back to the example of Square. Square can be a food truck, and you could create an algorithm based on that data, based on customers, based on information. You have their actual transaction data from the truck. You could also connect them because they find out about you through social and digital. And you could put all their social and digital handles into a social media listening platform, or you can put their social and digital handles into the CRM system and see how much either positive or negative pro-social behavior comes from their social platforms. But philosophically speaking, you should be able to do this on a smaller scale. Maybe not the model that these professors created, but philosophically do the same kind of thing. A huge part of success of data effort hinged on centralized information and getting players from a variety of disciplines within Wachovia, which doesn't exist anymore, to work together and communicate. Is it possible a significant part of the success of the model was a result of centralization communication, such as technology and data? I think a huge part of the success was this was approved from the highest levels at Wachovia. And if you have senior VP, executive VP, C-suite approval to do this, this would be very hard for someone very far down the chain of command at a company to pull off. What the heck is this article talking about? It's a good question. This article is talking about trying to come up with profitable relationships. Is it possible in a learning mentality, learning to provide more to your existing customer base and that be more profitable? According to this article, yes. Absolutely. How did the company determine that customer purchased the product based on the coupon in the newspaper? Or was the talking advertisement in the supermarket? So most of these devices have codes. So when I listen to a podcast and I want to subscribe to lynda.com, well, guess what? It's the talkshow.lynda.com code that is given to me when I listen to the podcast, and I get my discount. And whether that person listened to the podcast or 5 or 6 of his friends listened to it and gave him the code even though he didn't listen to it, the fact that that promo was being used out of the podcast, then that's a trackable marketing expense where you can have some kind of a return on investment calculation. I have a very, very hard time recommending to anyone that they should do some marketing activity that does not have any tracking ability whatsoever, i.e. either in expenses, a TV ad without a social media follow-up or a call to action to me is a failure. Should the marketing department look at a customer's value annually? Well, Amazon does this multiple times an hour. A couple times a day. Easily. Or focus more on potential lifetime value of the customer. Amazon looks at the potential lifetime value of a customer multiple times during the day. Right? What is a reasonable amount to spend on marketing? It's this is a billion-dollar question here, literally and figuratively. Well, usually most companies have some kind of a budget, that is a function of either industry averages, historical patterns from within the company, but some companies triple their budget in 1 year because they have 3 product launches, and then the next 2 years they have, a third of that budget. It depends. I'm sorry for being vague, but it depends. Is it brand equity to include in this concept? Is it brand equity to include? I don't know what you're asking there. How does a company determine what mix of both traditional and emerging marketing channels will work for them, best for them? Well, you use them both and you calculate ROI of each independently. Traditional, top down, emerging, social digital, bottom up. The social digital is easier to track and determine ROI. This one, at least you could have a call to action. If you're running a coupon in the Sunday paper, well, guess what? You can collect the transaction data based on that coupon. You get that. But you can also have coupon codes, things like that. Does the type of industry that a company is affected the mix of traditional and emerging marketing channels? I do think so, yes. Are there any examples of companies that use solely traditional marketing channels? There are a lot. It's getting, it sounds weird, but Apple does little to no social or digital. Well, they do digital, but they don't do social. And emerging is really social and digital. Do you think the model Wachovia used to assess the market spending is transferable to other industry and company? Yes, I do. Is it directly? No, but it's pretty robust. I mean, these are data points that a Fortune 500, a Fortune 100 company should be able to relatively easy populate the database with. If social media was heavily used in 2008 as it is now, do you think Wachovia would still have conducted research in the same way in order to determine how to allocate their marketing? Yes. Yes. Because a lot of what this is social media is only one of the points in the algorithm to determine overall ROI. It isn't solely the only one, but I mean, look at the directly controlled by marketing, media advertising. Look at sponsorships. All right? The last one is, excuse me. The last one would still have social media call to action to it, but sponsorships, they were probably doing it in 2008. There's nothing to prevent them from doing sponsorships now. I mean, when I was down in Marseille, the one professor that I was working with, his main area is sponsorships. He's heavily involved in the ATP, which is the tennis association worldwide, and he runs a lot of the events in France for the leading up to, and he's involved with the French Open. Well, guess what? The same banks that were doing sponsorships in 2008 are still doing sponsorships for his tennis matches in 2016. The difference is they have called the actions with social as part of the sponsorship. The customer equity. What do you think are possible benefits for a company when obtaining these results? Well, they know their ROI. They have more. They're not guessing on their marketing spend. Some companies have no idea whatsoever that they're spending marketing dollars beyond a point of saturation. If that's not a good enough reason why to start doing some calculations, I don't know what is. What are the first steps to decide the company's marketing mix? You do a SWOT analysis. You guys are MBA students. You've done a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Based on that, you decide a plan and a strategy. Within that strategy, you determine what your resources and how the resources will be allocated. And then you determine your market mix. The P, the P, the P, and the P. The 4 Ps is the mix. Okay? Do a quick pause. Be right back. Okay. So, as I can read by the teams, those of you split articles up amongst the team members, whoever got this article was probably really happy that it was only a one-pager. Not sure that that's the most optimal strategy, that you only read one article, because a lot of these articles have tons and tons of nuggets in them. But, all right. Let's wrap this up. These last two articles. What are some ways loyalty programs can cultivate good customers instead of alienated perfectly good customers? This seems to be a trend throughout these articles, but no real suggestions. There was a ton of suggestions. I disagree. And you just give more back. You be transparent about what you're doing with the data. That's it. That's it. It's not that hard. There are some ways companies can reward their highest valued customers while still averaging customers satisfied. Is there ways you can high value customers while still keep the average ones happy in the system? Yes. You be transparent about, either based on the number of transactions, the type of transaction, if it's clear how you get more highly rewarded and everybody knows the system, then no one's going to have a problem with it. What are the better ways that retailers can use loyalty cards to increase loyalty to the infrequent shopper? Well, that's a really good question. It's not just the infrequent shopper. It's the shopper that does not want to opt in for the company to learn about them. And if the company doesn't learn about them, it's hard to provide them good value or tell them what's in it for them. That's the trade-off. See, some customers don't want to get involved. And if they don't want to get involved, then okay, it's their decision not to opt in. But if they hear from all their friends who have opted in and they're getting these benefits and they don't want those benefits, then that's their call. Do companies offer higher status for customers who have been loyal to them for 10, 20, 30 years? No. As a matter of fact, American just merged with US Air. US Air? Yes. US Airways. And they killed a lot of the point systems. Both the former American customers and the former US Air customers are both really upset that their statuses levels and their all got reset. This is usually not one of the key factors that companies base loyalty on. It's usually based on some kind of a transaction. Or the program only applies to customers who spend more money. It's usually a transaction thing. They may acknowledge this, but it doesn't get you anything. At least not directly. What is a good metric to base rewards off for or online customers? So what is that metric? Is it total miles flown? Is it total miles flown on premium seats? Is it frequency of flown? Frequency of? You got to see what the company is asking for. Off the top of my head, it's total miles flown is what's the most common. I don't know if that is the best metric, though. Do companies strive to think of programs that constantly evolving to stay interested in company? How do they, or what do they? Well, they listen and they learn. If the airline rewards would be treated related to the money spent, then how would we determine the weights of the different variables? Is it too costly the company will be willing to pay to change the whole process? It is too costly to change the whole process. Most of the time, they just kill it and restart, which is what US Air and American Airlines kind of just did. It's easier to understand that the reward structure is one-to-one counting. What is it? Southwest, they don't use miles, they just use units. Every time you fly, you get a 1. If you fly 8 times, you get a free flight. Okay. What was the reasoning in creating miling program to reward mile then by dollars spent? Or was it just a gimmick? Well, it was American Airlines that created this. They were one of the first ones to do it. And they wanted to reward miles because the longer you were on a plane, also, it was impressive to track how far someone was flying. I think the bigger it wasn't just miles. I think it's the number of times you've flown is really the bigger issue. And you could fly twice in a given year and have more miles than someone who flew 5 times. Yet those five transactions might have been more profitable. Could have been. Are there fundamental differences that can be seen in certain industries in regards to loyalty programs? Other than, this is a very tactical kind of question. You're looking for the nuts and bolts of what loyalty programs do. I've been more on a bigger picture, bigger perspective here with regards to, what should go into creating a loyalty program. But almost every one of these programs are based on transactions, so it's hard to differentiate anything beyond that. Is it better for companies to have different tiers of loyalty programs to ensure good customers that do not feel less worthy than the best customers? Should you have different tiers of loyalty programs? I guess you could. I don't have a problem with it as long as it's transparent. Why have airlines not adjusted the basis of their frequent flyer mile programs from basing it off miles flown instead of dollars spent? Dollar spent would be good. I like dollar per dollar, but then again, look at the credit card companies. The credit card companies used to just do dollar to dollar, but now they do triple points for entertainment, quadruple points for travel. They do all kinds of stuff like that. With the baby boomer generation preparing for retirement, how do you think airlines can market loyalty programs to millennials who value different things than the baby boomer generation? Millennials do value different things than the boomer generation, but millennials and boomers and Xers and Yers and even Zs that are upcoming, if you tell them what's in it for them, they're going to care. If you tell them something that they don't care about, they're not going to care. So, in that aspect, I don't think it's really any different. What we can say is the baby boomers used to make decisions in isolation, and millennials do not. Millennials might take the word of mouth that they see in social much more than word of mouth that baby boomers would have. To the point where some airline companies are courting highly influential millennials, because these highly influential millennials, given their social graphs, will have a stronger impact to other millennials. All right. Last article. This is again from Susan. This is Susan Fournier. Jill Avery was her dissertation. Susan was the dissertation chair to Jill Avery's dissertation at Harvard. I know Jill and Susan. Haven't talked to them in a while, but for my time in Boston. Jill's also a very, very sharp researcher. Unlocking the mysteries of your customer relationships. Why is it that in most marketing organizations, it's no one's job to think about the relationship segments? This is going back to the second week. In a market-oriented firm, it's everyone's job. In a non-market-oriented firm, it's someone's job, and it's not coming as part of the strategic direction of the firm. So the information gets lost. It gets stuck in a silo and doesn't get shared. It doesn't get acted upon. The firm's not market-oriented because there's no inter-firm communication on this information. How do you best work with a brand that wants to move from one relationship segment to another? How do you work with a brand that wants to move from one relationship segment to... So the brand wants to move from one relationship segment to another? This is very hard for a brand to do. But usually what a brand... I'm pretty sure you're talking about page... 78. You can go from a strangler to a fleeting acquaintances to a casual acquaintances. Is it possible for you to learn a little bit more that would make a relationship stronger? Is that all you need to do? That's what I would do. That's what I would do. If you invest in a relationship, you hope that there's an ROI to that relationship. Is there an example of a couple brands that have moved relationship segments intentionally? I know her dissertation data was based on Porsche. I saw her do the presentations on it. And her dissertation data explicitly was about, and you may not remember this, when Porsche first introduced the SUV, the Cayenne, there was a fractioning of the brand, let's call it that, where the traditional sedan 911 people, they were not happy that all these new customers were coming to the brand through an SUV that never bought a Porsche before. They were afraid that the Cayenne wasn't, they, meaning the 911 core community, wasn't a, so there was lots of internal messaging that had to go to the existing 911 core base that, yes, this is a Porsche, it's a 911 in a different shape. And then there also had to be a ton of messaging to these new Cayenne drivers to say, you know something, you didn't buy just an SUV, you bought a Porsche. And this is what a Porsche is, and this is what a Porsche does, and this is what it feels like to drive a Porsche. And that's how they move segments from flings or strangers into, they did once they had them in the fold, they did lots of messaging. Okay? Questions. Going back to a question from a few weeks ago, it seems like large companies are trying to use data and teach computers to understand their customers, much like a successful mom and pop store would intuitively understand their customers by simply speaking with them. Is this another manifestation of customers wanting a personal touch to go along with their low prices and near infinite selections of goods and services? I think it's more than just a personal touch. I think customers want really good value. They want what's in it for them. My expression is WIIFM. I didn't create it, but I adopted it. WIIFM. What's in it for me? Okay? If you give someone really good value, and by the way, that value doesn't have to be low price. The value doesn't have to be near infinite selection. But if you're in Amazon land, you have really good prices, you have unbelievable selection, and you know what people want. You know what really good recommendations to make to people. It's a win-win-win, in my opinion. This article seems to be written from a very marketing-centric view of the world. Well, maybe. In today's environment of making earnings by cutting costs, is it realistic to think that a company would be willing to make such a substantial investment in marketing or expand marketing's influence on relationships into IT or customer support worlds, let alone legal or finance? All right, whoever asked this question, I appreciate you asking this question, but I have to go back again to MO. This should not be a marketing-centric view. It should be a market-centric view. And it shouldn't be just expending marketing dollars. It's a no-brainer to add the customer support or the IT or get legal or finance to buy in if it's not marketing, but it's market-oriented strategy. You break down those silos. Are customers aware that companies want to have a relationship with them and therefore demand more from the company in exchange for the relationship? I don't know if demand more. Expect more? The only way I will be in that loyal relationship is if I get more? Not demand more. Expect more? In exchange for whatever information I give up for the relationship? If your product is exceptional and unique, can you be successful with your customers not being happy? If your product is exceptional and unique, can you be successful with the customers not being happy? Exceptional and unique, yet they're not happy. I don't know. This is a little paradoxical here. Exceptionally good and unique, yet they're still not happy. I'm struggling with this one here. I don't know what to say here. So exceptionally good, exceptionally unique. Can you be successful with your customers not being happy? I don't know. Regardless of whether they're happy, are they loyal? I think that's the better question. If the answer is yes, and they are loyal, then guess what? What is the best way to classify each customer relationship? Should there be a model in place that categorizes each customer, or should it be done on a case-by-case basis? Customer relationship, should there be a model in place to categorize each customer, or should there be a case-by-case basis? Well, last week we did one-to-one. I've been advocating one-to-one. Each relationship should be a one-to-one. We have the digital technologies that it should be a case-by-case, individual, one-to-one basis. The question is, if a loyal customer has a specific requirement in the purchase which is not painful to the company, does the company be able to make some of the change immediately? If yes, who will be the quickest decision maker? If not, how does the company avoid customer loss situation? I.e., the customer canceled a $7,000 order because she was frustrated with the deliveries and signature policy. If I want to buy something on Amazon, I can only see the different prices from different vendors. I think it's very one-way communication. How can companies prove the importance of relationship? I'm struggling with what the question is here. In the example in the article about the scenario where she canceled $7,000 worth of clothing because they couldn't figure out the delivery problem. Well, this is an opportunity for the company to learn about a particular situation, and correct this scenario. And it is done on a one-by-one, case-by-case basis. Amazon, given who Amazon is, sometimes they have this is my policy, and you have to kind of deal with it. But then again, we will learn a lot about you and give you a lot of value. I hope that's helpful here. How can companies prove the importance of relationship building programs to business departments such as finance and legal that tends to hinder the development of these types of programs? Well, if finance and legal have buy-in from the get-go, as opposed to, oh, by the way, we want to do this and won't you approve it? This goes back to being MO. If finance and legal are part of the strategic direction of the firm, then if that's the direction the firm is going, then finance and legal are going to do what they can do to benefit the process and not hinder it. But if we have turf wars and we have functional silos, then finance and legal are going to do what finance and legal people do. They're going to dig their heels in. Question. What phase do you see relational intelligence at this moment? Do you think marketers' focus on relational intelligence has increased or is still steady? Relational intelligence. There's no question, because it's easier and cheaper, that marketers have more information. Do I honestly feel that marketers are doing more with the information and providing value than they have in the past? No, I don't. There's a lot of marketers collecting a lot of data and not using it in any proactive way. I don't think I can be any more clear than that. It's a good way to end. This was a lot of solid questions. Looking forward to branding, our next two modules, which are very, very good and fit very, very well with everything that we've been talking here. Okay? Thanks.